This was the first time that it was like, I mean, I was like sobbing uncontrollably, like to the point where it was kind of embarrassing because I couldn't even like control my voice anymore. I kind of had to step back because it was like, it was too much. It was like getting too real. I couldn't think of like, you know, the technical stuff like, oh, you need to come in and do that a little bit shorter. Okay. So it was a really cool experience, and I just felt like it was a better idea to do that with something like Romeo and Juliet. I felt like it deserved that.
And I think any of us would tell you, learn everything you can. Learn every method, everything, because working with different people will require different things, and what you want is a nice big bag of tricks to draw from. That's what you want. You want whoever it is that you're working with that day, whatever they ask you to do, you want to be able to do it.
And, you know, in our situation, we don't have a lot of, I mean, there's not a lot of, I'm going to say this, there's not a lot of thinking that goes into it. We don't have a lot of time to go through backstory and do all this emotional recall. I mean, we go in the booth, they give us the script, we need to produce something, and time is money, and we need to come up with something quickly and make choices quickly. So I think improv is a big thing to pull from. And the director's going to tell you what they want anyway. Believe me, you won't get out of there without doing it the way they want you to do it. So it's like, I better give them what they want. So,
you know, one of the downsides about recording alone is that if other people around you that you were having conversation with have already recorded, they can often set the tone of how you're going to need to respond to them. You know what I mean? You may have an idea in your mind of kind of what you wanted to do, looking at the script or the scene, but if somebody has already recorded, the way they perform their lines will often, you know, close down your options as to how you're going to interact with them in order to make it believable. That's kind of one of the downsides about recording after other people, but, you know, it's kind of neat to record first sometimes because then you get to perform, you've got a lot more flexibility with the way you inflect the lines, but the downside is you don't have anyone else to play off of. So it's kind of a trade-off, you know, if you're the first to record or record after others have already recorded. Yes, sir.
All right, this is a question for all of you. If you could date any FMA villain.
I'm almost up with greed. Sorry.
You'd love to have this one.
That's what I was supposed to say.
Lust. I like Pimp.
Gluttony, for sure.
He said gluttony. Those of you that missed it.
It's narcissistic to say greed, right? So I'll go with lust. Yeah, lust. Lust is really hot.
Lust is kind of the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Let me go to the back. You in the back, sort of. You girl, yes, waving your hand at me. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. Use your outdoor voice. Having a scream?
No, it is not. But it is when we're asked to scream, when the script says and you're screaming, is that awkward? No, but I'll tell you what is when somebody is asked to scream but they don't. That's what I've heard. Is that directors will tell me that they'll get people who are new into the booth and it'll say, you know, screaming, and they go, ah! You know, and again, that's just the difference between having the experience of hearing yourself in your headphones to be able to really let go and really scream. And most of us that have done it for a while have learned how to do that without completely wrecking our cords instantaneously.
I have a really funny story actually about screaming. Whenever I was doing Nina Tucker, there's that one scene or whatever where that chick is having a baby or something. And she screams, and obviously I was new, so I mean, I'm sure Colleen was directing me, and she's, used to people doing, like, especially new people doing, like, the, and so she was like, overly like, okay, so just come in for the scream, just the longest, loudest scream you could do. And I ended up doing like a 30-second scream. Like just like long, like I went past the scene. Like I wanted to scream as long as I could, so I did. She was like, yeah, it needs to be like 5 seconds. So, yeah. I was an overachiever with that.
The hardest thing to do is that if any of you had to burp. Any of you had to belch?
I had a stunt burper.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was really difficult, burping.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I can't do
you have
it.
you have a doctor's note.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
But
yeah.
I mean, I burp all the time. Like, I'm a really gassy person. But for some reason, like, anytime I have to do it, like, it's like the one time that I can't.
Yeah.
The sad thing about yelling is when you end about 3 frames before they wanted you to.
Oh, I've done that.
And they're like, that was great, but just a little longer. And I'm like, go. So close.
Can't you stretch it?
Yeah, can't you just time stretch it? There are a lot of great tools in digital recording nowadays, you guys, which help out a lot. They're able to compress and extend a performance to match mouth flaps sometimes. Not too much, because then it starts to artifact and get kind of digital. But sometimes if the director likes a performance and you're just a little bit short, they're able to stretch it. But the yelling is always interesting for everybody. Everybody's got a different feeling about it, Some people actually enjoy it. I remember Sabbath saying once that he has just, from Dragon Ball Z days, those guys, I mean, they are masters of that stuff. I remember one of the first
That's all
times.
that show is, right?
One of the first times I met Sabbath, he said, I used to sound like you.
I was gonna say it's funny, like, because I totally watched Dragon Ball Z when I was little, and I bet that makes Sabbath feel really awkward when I'm like, yeah, when I was a wee child, I was watching on the Anyway, so I think it's funny, like, whenever you go back and watch, like, the, like, original, like, old dubs of it or whatever, and, like, like, crazy old. And, like, it's like Sabbath's voice is, like, an octave higher than, like, it ended up by the end of the show. Not that the show's over, but, you know what I mean. It never ends.
I heard the funniest Dragon Ball joke. How many Dragon Ball Z characters does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh.
It only takes 1, but it takes 30 episodes.
You that I yes.
You that I yes.
We just can't hear you. Wow.
Working with Chris Pat. I'm being really mean today.
I love it.
Wow. It's really hard.
Someone's a Debbie Downer.
No, you're talking to a group of people who's been pretty fortunate in this industry, so I don't know. Who have stumped us.
Job or not in regret.
Yeah, I guess the biggest scare or disappointment is you never know when it's going to end.
That's right.
How about that?